Good morning and thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Botari in for Adam Sexton. It seems maybe a day, a week doesn't go by really around here without us at WMUR having to run a story about a deadly crash on New Hampshire roads, including a spate now of fatal wrong-way wrecks on 95 and a surge in the number of young people dying on our roads. So what's behind this? What can be done to stop it? Joining us for this important conversation is Captain Vincent Grieco of the New Hampshire State Police. Captain, thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start with this. I mean, is something appreciably different now than in previous years? You know, anecdotally, it seems like we're hearing about more of these crashes, more wrecks. Are the numbers bearing that out too? Is that something you guys are seeing?
We have seen a trend, an upward trend in fatal accidents and accidents on our roadways in the last number of years. This year alone, we're right at about 135 fatalities that have occurred on our roadways. That's up from 127 last year.
And so the big question, you know, right away, I'm like, what changed? What's different now? And I'm sure you guys are asking the same questions. What are you finding?
We do. We ask ourselves that on a daily basis, and it's a concern for us and for everybody that's traveling on the roadways. And really what it boils down to are three common trends that we're seeing that are continually repeated and that we're trying to get the message out to help curb this. And that's impaired driving, excess speed, and distracted driving.
We'll kind of take each one of those because I have to wonder as well, a lot of it we already have policies against. It's already illegal to speed, already illegal to drive while intoxicated, and it's already, you know, we have the hands-free law as well. So is there more policy that can be done to change this, you know, or is it simply an enforcement? Is it a change in the way people are thinking? When you guys see this, where do you come at that issue?
We're willing to approach this from all angles. As far as policy or legislative reviews, things like that, that's something obviously better suited handled for the Commissioner's office to speak to. I don't have any knowledge of that at the moment. What I can speak to is the enforcement efforts that the troopers, the men and women of the state police, are going out there and doing day in and day out to try to curb this issue.
And when it comes to enforcement, I know you guys just had a big enforcement action a few days ago involving the state police plane on 93. What were you finding on the roads there?
Correct. So those are members of our special enforcement unit. They are dedicated troopers that work 24/7, 365 to work these initiatives with our aircraft unit. Just a few days ago, they did a 3-hour initiative, which resulted in over 50 vehicles being stopped or 50 violations being observed. More than 20 of those people were traveling at speeds of excess of 90 and 5 were traveling in excess of 100. Another one just took place shortly after that in a different area of the state, and the numbers were almost the same. 20 or more over 90 miles an hour, and another few that were over 100 miles an hour. So it's a trend that is being repeated on all roadways. So it's an all hands on deck approach to stop this.
Yeah, and another piece of this too is you were talking about the distracted driving. What are troopers finding when it comes to that? Is this something just because of the amount of devices that are in our cars now? You know, the cars basically have a computer in it for themselves, that it's increasing the distraction level among drivers? What are you finding?
Again, a troubling trend of people just being so attached to the devices that they have, the need to stay in constant communication with others, forgetting the consequences and the difficulties that brings when they're operating a motor vehicle at highway speeds, the damages that can occur to themselves, others around them, are just immense. People really need to just put the phone down, watch what they're doing, and not drive distracted.
And then, we've talked to you guys this year about this, the 400% surge in young people who have died on New Hampshire roads over the last 5 years or so. Is there more that can be done in terms of education or reaching out to young people? You know, clearly something's different now.
So certainly the educational component is huge. There's an enforcement component, there's an educational component, and both are equally important. The sooner that we can address young drivers and make them aware of the dangers when they get behind the wheel and things that they can do to mitigate those dangers are always going to be extremely important. But that's also up to parents and friends and relatives and examples that they see from other people when they're in a vehicle and they're operating on roadways. So a lot of it is enforcement, a lot of it is education, but a lot of it is people taking personal responsibility for the actions that they choose and the consequences that come with that, and sometimes catastrophic.
And when you talk about personal responsibility, another piece of this is the impaired driving. We're coming up on New Year's Eve. Obviously, that's always a time when that becomes a topic of conversation. Are you noticing with the impaired driving writ large, is this a situation where it's alcohol, drugs, a combination of both? What are we seeing in the state right now?
A combination of both. When we don't get all of our data back right away, especially when it involves a fatal accident. So while I can't point to the causation of every single accident, we are seeing trends of alcohol and drugs also mixed with distracted driving and excess speed. So when you have the combination of consuming alcohol and driving with a cell phone in your hand, or consuming alcohol and then driving at 15, 20, 25 miles an hour above the speed limit, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Captain, are there specific areas that state police are targeting in terms of really trying to crack down on this enforcement angle to make sure that this message is really driven home? Like, is it 93 in the Hampton area where we saw those, several crashes in a row week after week, it seems? Is it 95? I'm sorry, 95 on the Seacoast there. Is it 93? Where are you guys really targeting for this?
So certainly there's a higher propensity for those things to occur, crashes, just because of the amount of travelers that are on the roadways. But when we really take a deep dive into the data and we start looking at where these crashes are occurring or where are these infractions taking place, what we're seeing is that this is no longer a Friday night or a Saturday night issue in just a populated area. This is on back rural roads. This is on Tuesday mornings, this is on Thursday afternoons, and this is on Friday and Saturday nights as well. So this is a 24/7 issue, and it's not just the larger communities that are subject to these tragedies. It's a lot of the smaller rural ones too. So the state police approach on this is going to be, like I said, an all hands on deck, but we're going to be pushing resources to any of those areas to help stop this.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have really been out there messaging. Is it frustrating that you guys are out here, you're trying to get the word out, but yet still these numbers are rising?
Yes, and that's where I would point back to some of the personal responsibility that needs to take place. Yeah. We will continue, we will be relentless in our pursuit of ridding our roadways of reckless drivers and getting that fatality number down to 0. When we talk about 127 deaths last year, we talk about 135 where we're at right now for this year. What's important to remember is every single one of those numbers is a human life. So as long as that number is 1, we will be relentless in our pursuit to get that number to 0. And what we're really asking for is the public's health, but to also just take personal responsibility, remind yourself when you're driving, check your speed limit. Is that text message really worth picking up the phone and putting yourself in danger, or having your loved ones know that you passed away because you got into an accident, or God forbid you take the life of somebody else because you look down and swerve into another lane? It's just not worth it. And the mere seconds or minutes that you shave off of your commute time or your travel time to a holiday gathering or a barbecue, whatever function it is that you're looking to attend, it's just not worth the risk to do that extra speed or take those extra steps towards distraction while you're driving to get to where you're going. Take those extra few minutes and spend them with your family and your loved ones, and don't wind up in one of these catastrophic events.
Yeah, especially as we end the year. A reminder there of personal responsibility. Captain, we appreciate your time tonight.
Of course, happy to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, and Happy New Year.
Same to you.
I'm sure you guys will be out there, and we'll be chatting with you a lot in the new year.
Look forward to it.
Okay, thank you. And right after this, we're going to be talking with several mayors, including the mayor of Concord, what he says needs to happen when it comes to affordable housing. That and more as Close Up continues here on a Sunday morning.